to look at the safe portion of money, safety versus risk, these kind of accounts with this, back up, with this kind of safety are very important. They have become the thing that we do more out of each 8 to 10 hour day than anything else now, because they're that strong. So make a little mark at number 1 if you'd like. We could talk about lifetime income, growth, index annuities. By the way, I have licenses with 33 different insurance companies in all 50 states. Be careful if you're sitting and talking with somebody who only, I met another one yesterday, poor woman, $400,000 in Allianz 222. Yeah. There are guys that go out there and they get licensed with the one insurance company that they can, and they learn the one index annuity that pays the highest commission to them, and that's all they sell, and they'll give you a nice lunch and a 45-minute presentation, and you'll move all your money, and then you'll meet us and we'll explain to you how bad that thing is and why. Don't fall for it. That's an easy question to ask. If somebody's talking to you about index annuities, how many insurance companies do you represent? And if it's only 1 or 2, run far away, and call us. We'll help. Okay, here's the second thing we do most often or most frequently. We work on income streams. So we talked about that in the last section a little bit. That's one way to get a guaranteed lifetime income stream. Here's the problem with income. Very much like the long-term care component that we didn't plan for well enough when we were younger. We didn't plan right for our income streams. I'll show you. 4 years ago, the Wall Street Journal went out and did a survey of 40,000 of their subscribers, all people in their 50s, and there were 200 different questions about all kinds of things. But these are well-paid executives that all subscribe to the Wall Street Journal in their 50s, and they asked them this question. When you retire, will you spend less or more money than you're spending while you're working? 95% of them said they would spend less money. 95, is that true? You spend less when you retire?
A little bit more.
Oh, God. And if I had more time to be home on Amazon Prime, I would have to get a second job.
Depends how many grandkids you have.
Well, and that's true. You might want, no, I'll save more. I'll garden, I'll get a discount, I'll play senior golf after 3 o'clock. Yeah, your grandkids, can we have them move? Can we go to the, yeah. Typically in the first year you jump 25%. Some of us go down a little bit over the next couple of years, but most people we've met that have been retired 1 to 3 years come and say, we needed more income. We need another $400 a month, $1,200 a month, whatever it is. So we have to design an income stream. Here's how we do it. First of all, we look for a way to make it dependable. I want to know how much I'm going to get every month. If somebody says, well, let's put you into a managed account where, when you have profits, you can take money from those profits. Okay, so if I make 0 profit next year, what's 20% of 0? Yeah, I get no income that year. I don't like that. Now you're going to tell the grandkids, I know I told you I'd take you to Hawaii over Easter break, but nah, the market was down. No. I want something as dependable as my rental income, my veterans benefits, my lottery winnings, my whatever. Then I want tax savings, either tax-free, tax-deferred, or tax-preferred, somewhere. And then I want a raise. Because if I retire at 65 and die at 105, that's 40 years I gotta buy anniversary gifts for my wife and play golf. Notice I put my first golf and movies and cruises. So I want to get a raise. Here's one way. I mentioned life insurance. You can do that with life insurance if you have 15 to 20 years to wait. We can build up a real nice, huge tax-deferred growth account and then get your lifetime income. Here's something you may not know. They've developed a new investment class from life insurance policies that have been sold. You know you can sell your life insurance policy? If you have a life insurance policy right now, and there's any cash value to it, some term policies too, even. That is a commodity that you can sell to an investor for a chunk of money. And it's been happening for hundreds of years. This has been done. I would guarantee you, are we in Northridge or Van Nuys here?
Right.
I would guarantee you the city of Van Nuys has a portfolio of life insurance policies on their books that they have purchased, and they do it every year because it's a safe bet. What wasn't possible was for us to come in as little investors and buy slices of these giant policies that have been sold, and that changed. They changed the legislation around 2010 and made it become available. We vetted this process for 6 years before we put a dime of our own money or any of our clients into it. But it has performed even better than we expected. So here's the way this works. I have a corporation right now. I've got a $3 million life insurance policy on myself because I own the corporation. If I die, they need some time and some assets to keep the company going while they find a way to replace me or figure out what they're going to do, sell the company, whatever. Let's say I sell that corporation. I don't need this anymore. I've got personal life insurance to cover myself. Even though I'm only 55 and I'm in pretty good health, I could probably sell that for $1 million cash to somebody who would then make the premium payments for the next 20 or 30 years or whatever. But they would actually make a tax-free profit by the $3 million death benefit when I pass. Either that or they'll come bump me off and they get paid sooner. But I'm not going to give them my real name. I'm going to tell them I'm Alan Lopez. There are safety gaps in place that prevent this from being a problem. But this happens all the time. My point is, we're not forcing anyone to give away or sell a life insurance policy that's going to hurt their family. These are life insurance policies that are not needed anymore and that people just sell them. We use Shirley Titus as an example. She bought a policy that was worth about $800,000, just long enough for her girls to get out of college, get married, and start their own careers. Both of her girls did extremely well. She said, I don't need this policy anymore. So the insurance company offered her $40,000 to just stop making payments on it and give it back to them. Well, we got her an investor. Who's Buffett's company? Berkshire Hathaway? Actually offered her $110,000 for it. And this was 9 years ago, right after they changed the laws. Watch how this works. And this is, I think, is this in their folders?
Yes.
They got, okay, so this is a real world example. This policy has actually paid out since we put this in. This person is 80 years old. He had a $2 million life policy he didn't need. His life expectancy is only 5 years. Every one of these policies is somebody over the age of 80. Almost every one of them. Almost every one of them is 5 years or less, and every one of these people is in very bad health. Very bad health. None of these people are going to get better. They might get a little better from some of these things: hyperlipidemia, hyperdysplasia, arthritis, Lyme disease, chronic lymphatic leukemia. He's not going to get better from all of these. He will pass. Maybe not quite 5 years, but probably won't even make it 5. Okay, so I don't have $2 million or $1 million to offer this person to sell me his policy. So instead of getting around to a bunch of my friends and saying, hey everybody, let's all put you in until we have $1 million, then we'll offer this guy $1 million for his $2 million death benefit. We'll make a ton when he passes away. Plus that was illegal until they changed the law. But now there are investment banks that actually make the deal. They buy it from him for $1 million, and then they break it up and they say, Greg, you want into this, you can invest. So let's say I put $50,000 in this one policy. I know he's going to pass in 5 years, or most likely, because I get to see at least 2 independent medical reviews of his life expectancy from companies who do nothing but life expectancy calculations all day long. And if they're off by more than a year, if this company says 5 years and this company says 3, they don't actually buy the policy. So I get 2, and I get notes like refuses to take his medication, won't go to physical therapy, won't stop smoking, won't stop. You get to see the personal behavior things behind this as well. You don't get their name and address. You can't go run over them with a car, get paid a little faster. But you can go, and we have this happen because we have a lot of retired doctors and nurses, they're clients, and they'll go, ooh, that's hard to diagnose, let's look at somebody else. Ooh, let's go with this one.
Those are the number one buyers, actually.
Right.
The ones that are in the medical field, because they know.
Yeah, and that helps us too. But what we've seen is that the payouts of these have been as on time as we had expected or earlier. So let's play this out. The design is a 10% per year compound interest return equivalent. Meaning if I could take my $50,000, put it into something that paid 10% per year compound without taking taxes out every year, 5 years down the road, when the life expectancy is to end, I would have $80,525. So that's my design return, because the design is a 10% per year return based on the number of years of life. Does that make sense? Okay. But I'm going to get that $80,525 if he goes skydiving tomorrow and doesn't pull the score. Doesn't matter when or how, My 50,000 will turn into 80,525. And I don't have to put any additional money into this unless he happens to start taking his vitamins and eating kale and walking every morning. And good for him, if he lives a couple years longer, I might have to come up with a little bit of money to stay in the game. That's why you don't put 50,000 in one of these policies. You spread it out. Like the last, I bought 5, I put 50,000, I had 10,000 in 5 different policies. So that if any one of these people happens to live a little bit longer, and probably one of the 5 will, my extra bump to stay in the game is $600. It's not a huge deal. And if I wanted to, and that happens, I can actually sell it to either go back to the company or somebody else and get out of it. The concept makes sense?
This product is actually very highly regulated.
Oh, it is the most regulated investment in the United States. It's the only thing overseen by both the Insurance Commission and the Securities Exchange Commission simultaneously.
So federal and state is
Yeah.
watching over this.
Yes, which I love.
Which
Oh,
is great.
and the Federal Bureau of corporate ethics or something. There's another body that I.
Yeah, and you can only put 10% of your asset in. You cannot, there
That's
are
true.
some fine print that you can, we might be able to, we can show and argue and all these things if you wanna put more. But in most cases, 10% is the most you can put in this.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that.
That's how strict it is.
Yes. But that's fine. Like I said, we're not here after all of your money. We just want to show you a bunch of different ways that you can safely invest. And remember this. This is a part of the retirement income section. So why are we talking about income? Because in a perfect design, if we could find a policy where there's a 1-year life expectancy, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, about once a year, I'm going to get a check with a lot of profit built in. And I can take some of that profit off, roll the rest back in, and every time I do that, I start from a higher place, and my accounts are growing, so my income will grow over time. And one of my goals was I want a raise. So I met that. It's tax deferred. I don't pay taxes on this 5-year policy. When the person finally passes away, then I will pay taxes at my normal tax rate. But the design is 10%, and what we've actually seen has been 12 to 14. If I need 12 to 14%, I'll pay ordinary income tax all day long, and there's no capital gains. So I've designed another income stream. Here's the most beautiful part to me, that has no ties to the market. Doesn't matter who's in office, or if we're at war, or what the price of oil is, or the price of gold, or foreign emerging currencies, it doesn't matter. The diseases are already in place. These people are on a path to their last days, and nothing's going to change them. So I like that it's not tied to whatever the market's doing. We have to update this because there have been 3 more policies mature. It's a nice euphemism. There have been 3 more people pass away since we put this chart together. At that time, it was 12.25. I think it's now 13.8 or something, is the average return from all of these different. And I like Lincoln, Nationwide, New York Principal, John Hancock, Sun Life, Mass Mutual. They buy from only the best insurance companies. They also get sign-offs from every spouse, sibling, parent, ex-spouse, child, grandchild, all family members from the person who's selling the policy sign off and say, it's okay that grandpa sold this policy, we're not going to come back and make a claim. That way, these are all investment grade. We have had no contests around any of these policies. So just to make a visual reference, if we go back again so that the last crash was included, if I put $250,000 in the market and it followed what the S&P 500 did over 10 years from 2007 to 2017, I would have gone from $250,000 to 364. If I'd done 3-year life expectancies over that same period of time in life settlements, and it only did 10%, it didn't do 12 to 14, I would have gone from 250 to 546 with no. I don't have to watch the market every day and wonder if this stuff's happening. Questions? Anybody have one of these? Have you heard of these before?
Well,
Yeah, a couple of you? That's good. More people are answering yes to that question than they were a year ago. So somebody's getting the word out. But be careful. I'll use a company, there's a company called Pacific West that is now out of business. that was brokering these types of policies. Remember I said we vetted this process for 6 years and watched every company that was licensed, and watched a couple of them get bought, a couple of them go out of business, and that one in particular, somebody's going to prison because they were commingling their money with their investors' money, and then they used some of that money to go buy their next policy, and they were breaking the accounting rules. And remember, this is overseen by insurance and securities exchange. So we carefully vetted, and we have our own investments. We'll show you our policies. The two companies that we use, Acclivity and Reliant Life Shares, because we know for a fact our money is sitting in an escrow account somewhere that even they can't touch. And if they go out of business or they're crooks, our investments are still safe. So let's, just to put a fine point on this, I put in $50,000. If that poor guy dies tomorrow, I make a 61% return on the. If he dies next year, I make a 27% return. If you 17, 13, there's the 10, that's at the 5th year life expectancy. But even if he goes a year later, the next year is 8.26, 6.44. I'm still outperforming the market. Okay. It's just another way to build income streams. And we've seen 2 so far. There's more. Make a little mark here at number 2 if income streams are something that you want to look at. And we can talk about a number of different ways to do that. I'm just going to quickly talk about the basics of the math behind savings on taxes. Just so we all, oh wait, that's right. Did everybody got your taxes done already?
No.
I legally can't give you dessert unless you did your taxes. That's not true. Oh, by the way, we serve dessert. Some of the cheapskates most of the people that put on these presentations don't offer dessert, so please stick around after your entree because the dessert here is really good. We saw people were getting up and leaving, and I thought everybody in California is all beach conscious, and they don't. No, they're like, oh, they never serve dessert at these things. So stick around. So last year, the IRS came out with this cutesy new form, if you're not itemizing your taxes, to try and make them look like a bunch of fun-loving people over at the IRS. It was called the 1040 Easy to Do form. It was just 2 lines. How much money did you make? Just send it to us. Yeah. I didn't use that form either. And you shouldn't either. I love the way the tax codes are written. Because if you know how to play the game, there are a whole bunch of ways to follow the yellow brick road of not paying taxes or pushing them way down the road. The problem is knowing how to play the game and where the map to the yellow brick road is. Here's all I want you to remember. It's an old slide, CDs are not paying 4%. But if they were, the 4% would not show up like this in your bank account, the whole pie chart, because it's taxable. CDs are one of those investments that will get you a 1099 every year. So I have $4,000 in my pie chart until the tax man comes in with a big old cake knife and takes a slice, in my case, probably almost half the darn thing away. So here's all you gotta remember. Every one of those dollars I lose is gone forever in my lifetime. It won't compound next year and earn another 4%. It won't put my kids to college. It won't help if I have a stroke and I need long-term care. I need to keep every one of those dollars in my account, either forever or as long as I can. Make sense? Very simple. This will grow like that compared to this growing more like that. I'm exaggerating just for effect, but that's the whole point. Here's a new way we can do that most people don't know about, and most financial planners can't tell you about because they've not heard of it or they don't know how to do it. If you itemize your taxes, this can apply to you. On any type of income stream that you want to create and for any type of tax break you might want to apply this to. So what this is doing is using the rules around what's called a 503c corporation. 501c. If I give money to a 501c corporation, they can give me back an income stream for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and give me a huge tax credit I can apply somewhere else in my financial world because of this charitable gift that I've given. So watch how we use this. This woman, real client, husband passed away the year before we met her. He was a dentist. She said, I've got 5 kids. I have not spent enough time, they all live around the country. I've not spent enough time traveling to see my kids. I want $2,000 more a month in income to deposited into my checking account. She's worth millions. That's her budget. That was her travel budget. I'm gonna spend $2,000 a month traveling around, live with my kids, move on. Okay, and I want to convert my husband's IRA that he left to me to a Roth, which will be a tax hit of about the account value is $179. She wanted that tax free. So watch what we did. We use a company called Legacy Tree Foundation out of Nashville. They do this and only this all day long, and they're a 501(c). So we gave $700,000 to that 501(c) corporation. They immediately started an income stream back to her, $2,400 a month that would go 30 years to someone. If she dies, doesn't matter. Her beneficiary will get the check. If they die, their beneficiary will get the check. If they die, their beneficiary. Somebody's getting paid $2,400 a month for 30 years, no matter what. It will pay her back over $800,000 or something. So she's got her travel money. That was goal one. Goal two was, because we used the 501(c), they issued a tax credit that she could apply to anything she wanted, $59,000 get out of tax-free card. So she applied it to her husband's IRA, which turned her $179,000 into a Roth without paying a cent. So the total benefit to her was a $224,000 gain over what she initially gave to them. And there was a residual $70,000, I believe, physical donation to her husband's college where he got his degree. But I didn't put that in. Concept makes sense? Sort of? Sound too good to be true?
Yeah.
That's what I said. Thinking, well, that's not happening. No, the laws were not created specifically for this kind of income, but the laws allow it. Totally legal in all 50 states. What was that other one we just did? We did a person, we talked about Apple stock earlier. A guy invested in Apple stock about 15 years ago, put in like $15,000, it's like $1 million something now. It's just huge. He wants to take some out, the tax hit and capital gains, he doesn't have to pay. He's actually gifting the stock itself, $300,000 worth of the Apple stock, to the 503(c). You can gift land, stock, basically anything with a value to it. And he's getting a tax credit back he can apply to the rest of the account to get that money out tax-free. And it created an income stream back to him. So we've got more money to spend. This works for the New Secure Act, where they took away our ability to give money to our heirs and let them stretch that over the life of their. We can now leave our IRAs and then go through this process and create a 30-year income stream for our grandkids and alleviate the tax hits and create a tax benefit at the same time. There's a lot of different ways to apply this. Questions? Make sense? I see people making frantic notes. And Isaac's giving me the hurry up sign, so I gotta move. Okay. All you gotta remember is this. We need to keep as much of it in our account for as long as we possibly can. And there's a whole bunch of different strategies to do that. And every time they try to take one away from us, there's always a way around. You just have to know who to talk to. All right, leveraging IRAs. I can do this quickly. You know what an IRA is? Everybody familiar with the term individual retirement account? Okay? Individual retirement account is something that I worked at a manufacturing company in Michigan while I was going to college. And we did metal stamping all day long. We stamped fenders and bumpers and doors. And I contributed to a 401(k) when I was there. Came off the top of my paycheck. So no taxes was taken out of that money. Went into my 401(k). When I left there, moved back to California, I pulled that money out, put it into just a checking account, I think. Still IRA money, never been taxed. That money will grow wherever I put it. I can throw it over here in mutual funds, I can go put it in a real estate partnership or ETFs. Until I start taking it out and spending it, that money will grow tax deferred forever, or until I'm 72. Then I gotta start taking it out based on these calculations. So here's the trick. They make you start taking the money out because, well, A, they want their taxes, but B, they want you to have to subsidize your living or existence with this money, and so that you stay off the dole or out of the poorhouse. And you're not a burden to society, you're not standing in the cheese line. Well, let's see if it works. For every $100,000 I've got every year in my IRA, I want to take out $7,000. It's my travel money, go see my grandkids, buy Christmas presents, whatever. If I can earn 6% on every 100,000, I can take 7,000 out and I'll be fine. It'll last me till I'm about 104, no problem. But what if we hit another bump in the road and the graph goes down like we saw some of the past years? Well, if I start doing 0 or worse, it doesn't work. It runs out before I do. And then I either have to adjust my lifestyle or find a new way to generate that income. Or I can find a magic lamp and ask a genie, please make sure I don't outlive my money. Just be careful that he doesn't say, your wish is granted, you have 1 week to live. Yeah, okay. Here's another place where these guaranteed lifetime income benefits come into play. Because remember I said they're not just on variable annuities anymore, you can put them on all kinds of things. Be careful with this one. It's called I had to skip some of this, QLAC, Qualified Longevity Annuity Contract. This is designed specifically to give you that lifetime guaranteed income stream without giving away, well actually, in this case you do. They bastardized the whole process, but don't fall for the hype. You can defer a quarter of your IRA up to age 85 from the required distributions. Some people fall for that selling point alone and say, I can defer my taxes for another 15, now 13 years. I want to do that. Here's the downside. You only get the money back through the guaranteed lifetime income stream. You can never go back and get the cash. And when you die, they can't keep it. They changed that law. But once I make the decision, here's my $125,000. I'm not going to pay a penny of taxes until I'm 85. 3 weeks later, my wife has a stroke. Think, oh wait, I need my $125,000 back. Nope. Nothing in my lifetime will ever let me get that cash lump sum back. I have to wait until I'm 85. I can't even say, well, let's turn the income on now. I'm 72, let's turn it on. Nope. Can't change a letter of the document. Let's play it out. So let's say I make it to 85, I turn on the income. I have to live until I'm at least 95 to have made even a 3% return on my money. Sound good?
No,
Everybody want one?
no,
Don't get dessert. Let's get one of these.
I don't care.
I know. You know what these are great for? These are great for the insurance companies. Fantastic hype. And think about all they pocket. Oh, I forgot this part. So let's say I turn 85, I get all these payments, now I make it to 87 and I die. My kids get back only the initial 125 minus the payments they gave me, not a penny of growth. Cool? Don't fall for this. Nice that they opened up that income thing to this is bad. Just take this away from this section. IRAs. 85% of Americans underutilize their IRAs because they don't want to have to pay an extra tax hit. You never have to pay a tax hit to reposition your IRA if you do it correctly, ever. Whether you're going to generate more income, pass more on to your kids, reduce your taxes, get some long-term care, whatever you're trying to do, we can help you do that with an IRA. Just make a mark there. Okay. Whew, I gotta go. I gotta hurry up. Okay, everybody know what long-term care is?
Yeah.
If I end up bad off, I'll use my dad as an example. My dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 62. No one in our family had ever had dementia. Dad got diagnosed at 62. He was in a home by 63. It came on so fast. He had no long-term care coverage whatsoever. Had a couple $100,000 in the bank. That was it. Didn't last long. Because he lived 10 years. Because he was young and healthy. His mind was gone. His body stuck around for a long time. Here was the list of, and yours, all of our options. Here's how we can pay for it. Now, if you've got $3 million in the bank, just set aside for long-term care, you can take a nap for a couple minutes. My dad and a lot of people are under the impression that the tax plans that they donate to will help them. They don't. If you're in this room, you won't qualify for Medicare long-term. You have too many assets or too much income, most of the time. I could be wrong. Every now and then I meet somebody who has proven me wrong. We want to look at somebody else's money to help. Let me just stick to the good stuff here. We don't like the confinement plans. We like the plans that will let you stay at home as long as possible. We also like the plans that are triggered by 2 out of 6 activities of daily living instead of something else. So I gotta be able to get myself out of bed, take myself to the bathroom, bathe myself, dress myself, feed myself, and control when I go to the bathroom. As soon as I can't do any 2 of these for any reason, a blow to the head, diabetes, blindness, break my back, doesn't matter. Any doctor can say, Greg no longer can do these 2. They say, how much of this money should we send you and where? Who's giving you care? So I think, well, this nurse comes and checks on me 2 hours a day, every day, at my house. They say, fine. But here's the plan we use. This is a lump sum plan. You don't make premium payments every month or every year for this type of plan. You loan an asset to the insurance company and say, hang on to this money for me. If I ever need long-term care, he'll give it to you. And they say, okay. So watch how this plays out. 65-year-old woman, she had $200,000 sitting in a savings account at the bank or CDs. It took $75,000 to get her the level of coverage she wanted. She wanted $3,000 a month at least for at least 5 years. So for $75,000 that she loaned to the insurance company, they gave her $4,300 a month maximum. That's the most she can get. Should we turn that fire down? Is it getting warm? A little bit? Okay. Isaac, I'll let you handle that. They're a little warm in here. I thought I was the only one, but that's because I was dancing. So she's got 6 years of coverage. If she spends this at $4,323 a month, it will run out in 72 months because she's spending down that pool. If she only needed half that, it would last 12 years, twice as long. If she dies, the kids get a tax-free death benefit. They don't just get back the initial $75,000 or have to go through probate. This goes outside of probate. So if she needs it, she's got long-term care. If she doesn't need it, there's a death benefit. If she wants, you can either have 100% money back or 75%. She chose the 75. But this is the only money you ever lend them. You never write another check. Make sense? Have you heard of these? All right. You know how long these have been around? 27 years. Most planners don't have the license to sell them, don't understand them, and can't even explain them. And the commissions are very low. But they're super powerful. And we do quite a few of them. No. Okay. The point is, like my dad, over the 10 years, we spent all of his $5,000 a month pension on just his care, plus about $3,000 more per month because his brain was so gone. I mean, that's a lot of money over a long time. If he had just applied for one of these before he got sick, then we would have had a lot of additional help. It's worth looking into. We also looked, remember we saw that annuity that had that long-term care benefit as well? There's a few ways we can do long-term care. Last section after this, make a little mark here at number 5 and let us at least show you what it would take to get some sort of coverage, and there are a few different ways to do it. I had to skip over some just because we're running out of time. Then lastly, probate. Living trusts. We don't sell them, we're not lawyers. We have to partner with a law firm that'll get you a living trust, but we would be really bad retirement planners if they didn't talk about the protection potential of a living trust. Here's the downside to living trusts, why most people don't have it. Number one answer for people over 65, why don't you have a living trust? Never got around to it. Number one answer of a widow or widower whose husband just passed or wife just passed, it doesn't have a living trust, why don't you have one? Didn't get around to it. Number two answer, why don't you have one? It's too expensive and I don't want to sit in a lawyer's office for 5 hours. Those two answers are kind of combined. So what we've done is we partnered with a company called Integrity Estate Planning. I think you may be on the brochure. They do the trusts for us. They're licensed out of Phoenix. They can do living trusts in every state. This isn't some teenage kid with a legal Zoom on his laptop that's just putting together living trusts and has no legal background. These are legally defensible. They'll audit them and come back and make changes for you as they usually buy. They've done 20,000 of them in Southern California alone over the last 15 years. But they'll do them cheap, affordable, and we can do it at your house. You don't have to come to a lawyer's office. So for $950, I think that just went up because of the first of the year. I think the retailing costs just went up $100. This might be $1,050, so don't hold me to the price. My point is, you don't have to spend $3,000 or $4,000 for a living trust. I had to redo mine so I could get the experience. It was better than the one I paid for 3 years before. I paid a lot more before. But we'll use Dina will work this area, won't you? I'm pretty sure. So we use a woman named Dina Atkins from Integrity Estate Planning will come sit down with you at your kitchen table and walk you through all the questions. Do you want to be an organ donor? Where's your long-term care policy? Do you have a living trust? Who's the trust? Everything you need to know to put a trust together, she'll walk you through at your own kitchen table. 2 to 3 weeks later, they'll have a living trust put together. She'll come back and walk you through every step of it again, get it notarized, and they'll retitle your property. Included in that price still, right?
As far as I know, like one property.
Well, your primary residence only. They'll do others, but they have to charge, because there's a courthouse fee for every retitle.
Be careful with that because some people would actually advertise it
Yes.
lower price and all these things. The next
Yeah.
thing you know, it keeps going up
Yes.
because you have to pay for this, this, and this, and this. So
Yeah, thank you. Because if you see an ad in the paper that says this Saturday at the Embassy Suites, pancakes and a living trust for $500, it doesn't include the retitling. Don't eat those pancakes, but it doesn't include the retitling of your property. It won't include things like an AV pour over. It won't have medical directives usually. Things like if you want to be an organ donor, advanced stuff. And they will charge you for every one of the stamps to do the notarization. So their $500 trust comes up to more than this one, and they won't do it at your house. So that's all I'll offer. Unless you have a question about a living trust. Any questions about what they do? Let me just quickly explain. All a living trust is, my house used to be owned by Greg and Amy Scottswood. My house is now owned by Greg and Amy Scottswood Living Trust. And the persons that control the Greg and Amy Scottswood Living Trust are Greg and Amy Scottswood. So all we did is retitle the ownership of the asset, but because of that, if one of us dies, both of us dies, that house doesn't sit for 6 months minimum, collecting dust and letting the pipes go bad, and letting the rats infest it, while the courts decide that my brother or her niece or whoever can have the house. It immediately goes to the person that it's supposed to. Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, Prince, all had no estate protection whatsoever, and have lost hundreds of millions of dollars in each estate because of it. So I can't sing like them, but my stuff is protected. Okay, last thing. You can file this form at the courthouse. It's called a revocable transfer upon trustee. Costs about $215. Don't be a living trust. You can protect any piece of property by simply writing the legal description and who the person is that you want to go to when you die. Have you heard of these? I don't think the lawyers want you to know about it. But you can download that. Make sure you put in the word California. Get the California form. I know from experience, if you take the Wisconsin form to the county courthouse here in California,
has the price gone up?
I think this is $215 now.
Wow. When we started
Yeah.
introducing this, it was like 125.
Something cheaper. I think $95.
Okay, this is getting popular.
Yeah.
But today, that
Right.
they're starting to get smart and say, okay, we're going to charge more.
And quite frankly, a living trust probably is more suitable. But
Right.
every now and then there's things like a divorce or an inheritance or something, or an investment property where you need to protect a piece of land outside of your living trust. You can print this off. Call us, we'll help you fill it out because it can be a little tricky.
What's the name of that form?
It's a revocable transfer upon death deed. I know, right? If you put transfer upon death deed, this will pop up. Just make sure you put the word California in there too. Or call us and I'll email you one.
All right.
Or jot it down that you want one and I'll send you one. By the way, if you want copies of any part of this presentation too, just let me know. I'll make sure we have an email address on your form. And I'm happy to send you any or all of these slides. But, okay, that being said, let us at least show you how a living trust could help. And if you have a living trust, a review is free. Find out if your trust actually will still do what you want it to do. And lastly, just keep in mind, we're just trying to show you a bunch of examples of different things that we do to help people. We never take any of your money. We're not going to try and give you a sales pitch. But if you want to get together, make sure here at the bottom we even put in days of the week. If you know, like I can only meet Wednesday afternoons and Thursday mornings, that'll help us do our scheduling. We'll come around now and answer any questions you have as they bring out food. Thank you, Jesus. All right. Did I skip anything? We done? I better start over. Why are they laughing? Did this help? Did you hear?
Perfectly.
Fantastic.
Couldn't hear him at all.
Oh,
I'm not that important.
I'll bet. I'm just glad I remembered to get it back to you.
My wife does.
Here.